All right, back here on Inside Wrestling Radio. It's up to the interview portion of the program right now. On the phone, we have probably one of the most controversial promoters and wrestlers that's been out there for a good little while. There's no middle ground with this guy. Either you love him or you hate him. And the people who love him stand behind him and have his back 100%. The people who hate him don't have anything good to say about him. And we're going to have to talk about that stuff. And we're going to have to talk about some of the controversy that's gotten this particular individual in some of the trouble, so to speak, that he's gotten himself into over the last few years. But right now, welcome to the program, UCW promoter, Ronnie Gossett. Ronnie, how you doing, man?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, man. And listen, I'm going to give it to you. It's very admirable of you to come on the program here because we've known each other a lot of years, and you know that that I'm not one to really shy away from any heat, and you're not either. So when it came up, the opportunity came up to have you on the show, and you actually said, yeah, you do it. And I said, well, you know, I'm going to be fair with you, and I'm going to tell you there's going to be some hard-hitting things come out of this, but at the same time, I'm going to be fair, and it's not going to be a hatchet job, and I'm not going to try to bury you. This is an opportunity for you to tell your side of the story on some of the things that have happened that have been controversial, to say the least. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I'm glad you do. All right, Ronnie, let's kick this thing off. But before we get into all the problems and all the heat and all that situation, tell the people who may not know Ronnie Gossett a little bit about yourself. What got you into the business, you know, where you were trained, who trained you, and going forward from there.
I'll be honest, I always loved pro wrestling. It was something I watched as a child with my great-grandmother and grandparents, like a lot of people did. Went to the matches on Monday nights at the auditorium in Greenville, and, you know, even when I had to lie to Grandma and say I had a ride home, you know, I'd make sure I was not missing anything. So I always had a love for it, but in school I played football, and that's what I ended up doing in college some. It wasn't never wrestling. Yep. But when I got an opportunity to get trained to do wrestling, you know, I met up with Paul Helms, and that's where I met you guys. And it was a great little federation they were running there in Lawrence. I think it was actually great shows we had going on. But then later on, got some training from Sarge when he opened up a different version of the power plant. I always felt like promotions wasn't really something I wanted to get into, and when I got into it, I was really pretty much aiming at somewhere for the guys to go that wanted to go the next level, but really wasn't there. And I wanted something for the guys that had been there that really don't want to wrestle in front of 50 people. So I was pretty decent at marketing and was able to get good corporate sponsorship, so I developed Universal Championship Wrestling, and that was pretty much it. It wasn't to get myself over. Of course, I took the old attitude like the Von Erich's family did. Hey, if you're all you can depend on, you better book yourself. I tell you, we started that and got good sponsors from the beginning, and the shows that we did consistently did pretty decent as far as drawing people anyway.
And that's one thing that has been said about you. I've never been to one of the UCW shows, but some of my friends have. And some of my friends have worked a lot for you. Scotty Wren's an example. Those guys, you know, have always said and continue to say that you put on a quality show. You know, it's all professionally done. You got big-time sponsorships and all that. So, you know, people put you over. Where do you think, Ronnie, the reputation has come from?
Well, I'll be honest. I've always been a risk taker. I guess it comes from being, you know, a street kid, a poor kid, and never did like it, you know. So if you're going to ever get out of the trailer park, you better take some chances or, you know, get educated. You better do something. So as an adult, all I can tell you is, it seemed to me, the people that were willing to go out there and take a chance or take a risk, you know, you're going to have to put all your money in the bank on the line, not just everybody else's. And sometimes you do have all yours and everybody else's. And sometimes you're going to come up short. It's just the way it is when you play the numbers. More times than not, we have success, but the truth is, you know, sometimes it's a jealous world. Wrestling's a jealous industry for one reason or another. You know, there's always 100 reasons why. But on top of that, you're going to fall short and people remember what you did wrong. Hey, the news is full of it. That's what they like to talk about. That's why they call it the news. And
that's a good point, Ronnie. But at the same time, you have to admit there has been some things that have happened over the last few years that have kind of put you in, for lack of a better word, a shady light. You know, there's been rumor of you skipping out and not paying people. You know, how do you respond to that?
I'll be honest with you, Ricky. There's been some shows where we come up short and we've had to pay guys later. But again, there's just been a couple, 2 or 3 where that's happened over the years, and they always seem to stand out. But if you take a chance and your sponsor falls through, something happens, you know, I'm the one holding the bag or going to be responsible for it. And I'll be honest, I'll shoulder it. And it's not something I want to do, not something I like at all, nothing I intended at all. But one thing I can tell you is it won't stop me from trying again, and never want it to happen again. Can't say it will never happen again as long as I continue to, you know, try to do this and take a chance and try to make a big show. The only thing I've done differently now is try to surround myself with more corporate sponsors and staff and people to help me so I don't make the same mistake on overbooking or depending on a certain sponsor to cover gates. Things I learned the hard way. And I will say, when I say learn the hard way, you you know yourself, it's been the hard way.
And I agree with you. You have had a tough road, down the line, especially as far as this promotion side of it. You mentioned earlier, and we'll get back into that stuff a little bit later, but you mentioned earlier you didn't at first want to get into the promotion side of it. What was the catalyst to actually say, well, I'm going to concentrate more on the promotion side of it than the wrestling side of it? Because you still wrestle too, but as far as the promotion, what was the catalyst to bring you to that end of it?
Well, like I said, to be a little more specific, there were just no independent shows really. It was such a big gap between WWE and ECW at the time when I started. Such a big gap. Independent shows just never drew unless we did like our annual tour for Tots. If you recall, we Draw Real Good or Clinton High School, something like that when we were SCW. When we wrestled for them, Rick, it drew good. But consistently, it would not. And the biggest thing was nobody knew, first of all. Mm-hmm. Nobody had a clue that we were even there. What really got me fired up was I just wanted to have a bigger stage, a grander stage for all of us, guys coming up in the business, weekend warriors, and names that are already off the big show alike to still have a place to go do their craft, show their thing. That's why I got more involved in promotions.
As far as getting into promotions, can you take me back to the very first show that you promoted? What was your idea coming out of that show going forward? I know there's always trouble with promotions. You're going to have headaches left and right, especially when you're dealing with talent from top to bottom. But from that take me to that very first show that you promoted, and how did that go for you?
I'll tell you, the very first show we did was at the Anderson County Civic Center. And there's probably 2,500 people, more people than I ever thought we could ever get. I promoted the daylight side of it at the time the best I knew how. I do things a lot different now, but what I mean is I had Budweiser and a lot of big sponsors help me because I couldn't have done it alone. Right. You got to have those type people help you. And we were in TV, radio, newspaper, and we did great. We were great on budget. We were great on talent. We didn't have a lot of big names, mostly mid-card guys, but what killed me was production costs. I learned the hard way. That cost me $8,000 that night, just in the lights and sound. So all my profit got eat up, but it was a show of the success. It just wasn't a monetary success.
You had a big house and all the guys were happy, but it just didn't turn a big profit like you expected.
Well, it did until I got the invoice for the final bill that's about to be taken out of the ticket money gate, the gate money. Right. So, the first thing I want to know is lights and sound. What's my cost?
Yeah. All right, Ronnie, we're up on a break right here. When we get back from the break, I want to go back into some of the controversy and some of the things that have gotten you kind of a little bit of a reputation. And I know that you said you wanted to speak to some of that as well. But before we do that, right, coming back from the break, I want to talk to you a little bit about your relationship with some of the so-called names. I know you're friends with Buff Bagwell and some of those guys, and want to get into how you kind of hooked up with those cats, if that's all right with you.
That's fine.
All right, cool. We'll be right back here on Inside Wrestling Radio with Ronnie Gossett coming up next.